So there are three reasons why you haven't enlightened yet, why the transfiguration has not taken place yet. Usually enlightenment is considered to be some kind of myth or only a story of the sacred books and some kind of mystic experience. The lesser the person has going the spiritual way and lesser he or she knows the sacred books, means that also the lesser or the wilder the idea about enlightenment and its possibility feels like. But the enlightenment is still a fact, and for next we will get through the three things, three obstacles, one can say, on the way to enlightenment. If you use some terms from psychology, we can say that we are talking now about three limiting beliefs of one's identity, or identity level limiting beliefs. So the belief number one is that no matter what mental and physical resources we have, the enlightenment is not possible to anyone. And there are a lot of people who believe in this way, and they consider this belief to be true, and it's okay. But in this case, it is the first limiting belief of identity level. And when a person fights with this belief, still believe in it, he or she can use, for example, the following words or sentences in his or her communication. He can say, for example, no matter what will happen, it is not possible, it is not true. Or no one can ever achieve that what I want. Or everything is just a chaos. Or we are living in the wrong or false era or time period. One can say people will never understand ... or because we live in this world I can't, or without money no one can achieve in life, etc., etc. Or there is no God, or no one can know the truth, the only personal truth, or something. And this is the first belief. Well, there are also the so-called cure for this false limiting belief, and this cure number one is faith. And not only faith, but faith and trust. So our first limiting belief is kind of a rough generalization of those experiences of those kind of people who have left the spiritual way for a reason or another. They personally have not went it through, and thus they have quit it. And if we stay in this point and consider us against those people and their teachings and their uh, beliefs of spirituality. Our personal spiritual journey will end right there, right there in this point. But on the other hand, if we can still believe or trust in God, no matter how we define it, or in truth, also no matter how we define it, or even to ourselves. And so then we have a possibility to, to dodge this first trap. In ancient era, already was that kind of wise thought that I know nothing, and I know only thing that I know is that I don't know anything. And when we understand the wisdom of this wisdom, that we don't know anything, and we know nothing. When we understand this wisdom, it gives the wings to our soul to fly out of this first limiting belief. Because enlightenment is a fact. There are already people who have gone through the whole way, whole Tao, and those are the people whose stories we can read from the scripture. There are those stories already, and thus it exists. Well, then there is the belief number 2. That is when we think that enlightenment is possible to someone. But personally, we consider that it is not possible for us, for me. The second belief is a bit like the first one, but now we don't have that kind of rough generalization, but this we have a personal belief, personal truth, so to say. When a person is in this pace, this belief rules over him or her. A person can say, for example, I'm not talented enough to make this happen, or for others it's possible to do anything, but not for me, or I can do this or that, and not with this head or not with this body. I'm so old, or I am so young, or I'm in some another pace, or in wrong country, or whatever. And also one can say that it comes if it comes, it's not about me. This is how the responsibility is moved, totally moved from oneself to some other party or parties. Well, as there is the problem, there's also the solution. The cure number 2 is hope. So our second belief is kind of a personal truth and idea of ourself. It's idea of our identity, and it is possible to show how this kind of thinking actually don't represent the truth, but only personal belief. In this example, I speak of the memory. Many people have said to me that they have some kind of memory problems, and they have said that it's easy to you to study because you can remember everything you read, or that you are so good with the languages, but these things are not true. No, it hasn't always been like that. When at the first time when I memorized the whole deck of cards by heart, and I was just went through the whole deck. I remember how something just like a flash lightning in my mind changed the belief, my personal belief concerning my memory and memorizing in general. We can say that the limiting belief concerning my memory came too close to sun and thus burned. I understood that by knowing the right memory techniques and by using a little bit time to learning those, how to use them. So you and I have a possibility to remember anything. And I mean almost anything. We can remember tens or hundreds and thousands of decimals of pi example, and uh, no matter what things we want to learn, memorize, we can with the correct techniques. Uh, After that realization, I have experienced the same phenomenon with, for example, how to control feelings, how to grow awareness, consciousness, with music, with drawing, even with uh, construction works in home or in friend's home, and always when I have uh, managed to go through that limiting belief of some old world image of mine, uh, it's always that some kind of pattern has broken and new knowledge has come to mind, and thus the old belief has been false. And when it's false, it will die. When our belief meets its end, it will die. It will leave us. The better, more constructive one belief will come. Uh, we can think in this context the uh, famous famous words by Henry Ford, who taught something like that. No matter how you think it, do you think you can do it or not? You are always right. That's the power of belief. If you believe that you can, you probably can. If you can't right now, you will can later. And if you think you can't, you probably can't. And if you can right now, it's quite sure you will not can't later. So we all have hope, and especially you have hope. Enlightenment is possible for you too, personally. We all have different starting point and our own challenges, but it is sure that in the spiritual way, everyone will meet the equal equal problems, that we meet different problems, but what we think of those problems is equal. For someone, another problem is as hard and huge than to some other person, some other problem. So you need to understand when you meet someone who has gone farther in the spiritual way, that even this person has not maybe faced all of your problems, similar problems than you. He or she can still faced equal problems, even though they are different than yours, and thus he or she can probably understand and help you with your issues, even though his or her issues have been different. Then there is belief number 3. It states that enlightenment is possible, and it's also possible for me too. But I'm not worth it. This is kind of a sticky situation, sticky belief that it sounds easy to understand it, but this is in unconscious mind, and thus it is not easy. Unworthiness, it is not easy concept to understand, but it can be understood. And let's see, when you disbelieve, dive straight to the identity, straight to your own human dignity, how you value yourself. And when a person meets this phase, this third belief, it can this belief can originate, for example, in one's race, where he or she has been born. What have you done, or what haven't you done earlier? What you represent, with psychological terms, that you may have too tight superego, and or too low self-esteem, etc., etc. A person can use words like "I don't belong here," "I don't belong to these people, to this country, to this city, to these men, to these women. I'm outsider. I have made errors, and thus I can't. I'm guilty, and it means I'm just a worker. Nowadays I am an ex-alcoholist or something. It's quite easy, as said, it's quite easy to consider that these 3 limiting beliefs, that one is self-aware of those, but the truth is something else. Beliefs want to keep in hide, in unconscious mind. The belief that doesn't hide will meet the truth in front of your face and eyes. And then it has only 2 possibilities. If it is actually the truth, you just have to accept it. And that belief, the second point is, if that belief was actually an illusion or lie, then this belief will die away. And that is why beliefs want to keep in your unconscious mind. They don't want to be judged because their whole life depends on that judgment. And when you have these beliefs in front of your consciousness, you can make rational thinking. This is almost like death penalty to beliefs. They don't want to do that. They want hide. They want to stay on the water. Before the third cure, we can consider about unworthiness a bit more. Let's take another example. We can think about a person who drinks too much, for example, who's an alcoholic. When this kind of person success in something, you can actually hear how he or she tells you that, oh, now it's definitely time to have a drink after this one. I deserve this drink right now. You can also hear the same words by a smoker when he have done something well. He can say, oh, I deserve a smoke right here, right now. This is about the unworthiness, the feeling of unworthiness. Feelings express your unworthiness from your unconscious mind. And when a person who feels unconsciously unworthiness, when this kind of person do something good, he or she immediately weighs one's own heart and then gives a new order to make equally bad thing. Do you understand it? He or she makes a good thing, then one weighs one's own heart, and if the unworthiness is there, he or she have to do the equal bad thing also. This bad thing can be that have a drink, have a smoke, and some other thing that is very vulnerable for yourself. They are harming oneself with these kind of acts. And for other people, it's really hard to, for example, take care of one's drinking problem or gambling problem or addiction of anything. And it is normal, this happens more than often, that this kind of person have to be left alone, being absolutely alone. And when he or she then faces this issue, this problem, the eyes will be open, just like that. There's no one else to blame. One have to look in the mirror, and the only thing the mirror shows is the face of oneself. Well, what actually then is the cure for unworthiness? The cure number 3 is the love. Because this third belief is deep personal experience of unworthiness, It's actually usually this is described also with uh, guiltiness of sin or sinning, and people are talking about bad karma, however you say it, and this. But the main thing is that this unworthiness, uh, as a thought in your mind, is originates in bad self-esteem, low self-esteem, and the inner selfishness. This is important to understand. It originates in inner selfishness. So it's like kind of an inner narcissism that has attacked yourself. And this is why selfishness, you can't beat or win, rule the selfishness by having a war against it, because that is actually what the selfishness part of you, the selfish part of you, wants. It wants to suffer, it wants to fight anything evil that can happen. And that also gives us the clue, golden key, how to handle this thing. The selfishness must be accepted, no strings attached. You can say to your own selfishness something like, thank you for being there. And no matter what have happened, I still love you. I love myself just like as I am today. And after this, you can guide your thoughts to saying I'm sorry, to forgiving, and finally to that idea and thought that you have been forgiven. You can forgive and get the forgiveness from yourself, from other people, and from God, or the higher power that you personally consider to be God. But the main thing is that everyone, every people, every single person deserves another chance. And if this another chance is not enough, then you have deserved the third one. If that is not okay, you blew it too, then have the fourth one. Have the 50th one. In the greatest law, there is no expectations, no deadlines. The ultimate mercy will have you, cure you, no matter where you are and when you are. The ultimate mercy meet you right here and right now. It cures you right now. Well, what else we could speak about this issue? The three reasons why you haven't enlightened yet are that you don't have faith, or you have that belief of hopelessness or unworthiness. And Because you have these three problems, you also have three possibilities and three solutions. And these three reasons why you can and will be enlightened, and these reasons are faith, hope, and love. I guess all the people already know which one is the greatest one of these three forces.